Hello everyone, it's Marion from Wool Thread Paint here again, and my tutorial for today is to show you how to make the last two parts of the border for the NOEL 9 patch blanket. You will have worked 3 rows of duck egg granny stitch, and now we have 2 more rounds to make. The first round is the bobble stitch round, which is the red bobbles, and then there's the final round with the picot triangles, and that's sort of to be reminiscent of holly. So I'm going to actually show you how to do the bobble round excuse me, first of all. Now bobble stitch shows up better if you work it on the reverse side. This is the front of the blanket and you can see that it's quite raised, but I worked the bobble stitch on the reverse of the blanket, so that strictly speaking is the right side of the bobble stitch, and it's a lot flatter. So make sure that when you're about to start this round you are on the reverse side of the blanket. So I'll put that out of the way. And we're going to be working with 2 colours. We've got the cypress green and the lipstick red, and we're going to keep the 2 colours going as we work along the edge of the blanket. So what I've done to start, I'm starting to actually crochet with the dark green thread, but I've first of all laid my red thread along the top. This, by the way, is just a little square that I've crocheted up in the duck egg, and this is, you're just going to have to use your imagination. This is like, let's say, a small version of the blanket, so we're just going to work along this small square. Right, so I've attached my yarn with the cypress, and as I said, I laid my red yarn down along the edge of the work first, so that it has been caught in with the first slip knot that I've put in to attach the yarn. So I'm now going to chain 2, and that is the equivalent of the first treble, making sure that this red yarn is still sitting on the top of the crochet. And there's a little tip that I suggest you really use, and that is decide which yarn you're going to have coming to the front and which to the back. And in my case I'm using the red at the front and the green at the back, and if you just try and keep it like that, you'll see what I mean as I work along. It stops your yarn from tangling up, because it becomes a bit of a pain having to untwist them every so often. So this stops that from happening. So I've chained 2, and I'm going to make a treble stitch, yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So you've put the treble stitch into the same corner. Now, looking along the top of these granny stitches, we're going to work into the actual top of each stitch to make these trebles. So I've got 2 treble stitches to put into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. But at this point, I'm going to change colour to the red. So I'm only going to make half of that stitch, and then I'm going to pick up my red yarn, which is in front of the green, and I'm going to finish off that stitch with the red yarn. And then into the next stitch I'm going to start as if I'm going to do another treble stitch. So it's yarn over, insert hook, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2. But we're going to stop there, and I'm going to continue with as if I'm going to do another stitch. So it's yarn over, insert hook, pull up, and yarn over 2. We've now got 3 loops on the hook, and then I'm going to yarn over, and these are all going into the same stitch, pull through 2, 4 loops on the hook, and yarn over, pull through and pull through 2, 5 loops on the hook. And this is the bobble stitch. And remember that our red yarn is at the back. We're now going to pick up the green yarn and pull it through all those stitches. And that's the bobble stitch. And then we can yarn over and go to the next stitch to make a treble stitch. And we're going to make 5 treble stitches between each of the bobble stitches. So that's 3, 4, and on the 5th one I'm going to stop halfway, pick up my red, which is at the front, and finish off the last stitch. Now you can see that I've got the 5 trebles and the red is just sitting between them. This is the bobble stitch, but it's actually going to look better on the other side. So I'm going to continue. Keep the green yarn over the top this time, lying on the top of the crochet, and into the next stitch. Make half a treble stitch. Do that again. So we've got 3 loops on the hook, 4 loops on the hook, 5 loops on the hook. And then we're going to pick up the green at the back and finish off the bobble stitch. Yarn over and 5 trebles. So that's 4, that was 3, 4, and on the 5th one I'm going to stop halfway, pick up my red at the front, finish off that treble, and in the next stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've got 5 loops on the hook. The green is at the back, and pull it through. Now I haven't actually counted out this square to fit exactly. I just made a quick square. So we're actually straight onto the corner here. In your blanket there will be 2 trebles and then into the corner, and in the corner it's treble 2, chain 2, treble 2, 2 more trebles on this side, and then the bobble stitch, 5 trebles, bobble stitch, and so on all the way along. And just work all your way round until you come back to where you started. The main thing to remember is that your yarn is always front and back, and then it never twists. That you always use, when you're going to start the next colour, you always finish off the previous stitch with the new colour, and that you always have your yarn being carried along so that it's not showing at the, it's not having to be stopped and started, or it's not lying across your work on the outside. The only other thing I would say is it is possible that if you've miscounted, you might have just done, you won't have miscounted, but if you have miscounted, or if there's something gone slightly off with your number of stitches in your previous round, you may not have exactly space for 2 trebles before your corner when you come to do it on the blanket. Now there are lots of things you can do there. You can increase by putting an extra treble stitch in just to balance up the pattern. So say for example I wanted to put 2 trebles in here. Now I don't have space, but say I only had 1 stitch left and I wanted to put in 2 trebles, you can just go ahead and put in 2 trebles and then get onto the corner. That won't affect the look of the blanket in any way whatsoever, and it will give you the right count. It could be that you work it out exactly. That mine worked out exactly, but don't fret too much if it is out slightly, or if you have room for 3 trebles at the end, then just put in 2. So this is the bobble stitch, and it's a pretty stitch, and it's going to replicate the centres of the holly squares in the other part of the blanket. So if you want to go on and work all the way around with that, remember that you've done chain 2 and 2 trebles at the beginning. So when you come back round to this corner, you would put in 2 trebles, chain 2, and then slip stitch to the top of that first chain 2, and you can fasten off. I suggest you fasten off. You're going to actually be using this yarn for the next part again, but nevertheless I would still fasten it off, and of course you can cut your red yarn as well. So I will see you back when you've done all this, and we'll do the final edging. Now, I haven't gone all the way around the square with my bobble stitch. I didn't feel it was necessary for this little sample. So I've just I've done 2 sides, and I've chosen to start my next round here, but you would be starting in any corner of your blanket once you've done all the way round. And this little zigzag has to be done on the front. So flip your blanket over, and you're now working on the front of the blanket, which means that your bobble round will be on its wrong side, but you will see that your bobbles are actually looking bigger and more raised on this side. So we're on the right side of the blanket again, and what I've done is I've just attached my yarn and chained 1, because the first stitch you're going to put in is just a double crochet, not a treble. So the chain 1 is the equivalent of a double crochet, and then I'm going to put another double crochet in that corner, and then I'm going to miss 2, and in the third one I'm going to put another double crochet, and then I'm going to make this little picot jaggy bit. So to make that, I'm going to chain 3, and then if I hold this up to the camera, you might see the two loops at the base of the chain 3. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your hook through these 2 loops and make a slip stitch. So you just yarn over and pull it through, and that makes the little picot edge. And then I'm going to miss 2 of the stitches, and you'll find that the third one along is this nice big red one, and just make sure that you make the triangular part of this edging into the red stitch each time, and that will keep it straight. So for this I'm going to make a triangle by making some treble stitches. So I'm going to yarn over and make a treble stitch. That's 1, 2 in the same stitch, and 3, and then at this point I'm going to make another picot. So I'm going to chain 3 and find these 2 loops at the base of the chain and make a slip stitch, which makes that little bobbly bit. And then I'm going to finish off this triangle by 3 more trebles in that same red stitch. And there you see the triangle with the little picot bit. Now I'm going to miss 2 and put a double crochet in the third one along, and another little picot, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into the base loops, miss 2 more, the 2 green stitches, and we do our next triangle. It's very easy. 1, 2, 3, and we do the picot again. 1, 2, 3 chains and slip stitch into the 2 loops at the base and finish off with 3 trebles in the same red stitch, and then double crochet in the 3rd stitch along and another picot. Miss 2 and off we go again, and so on with the treble. So there's the little triangular shape sitting on top of the red bobble stitches. So you've got a nice, an interesting little edge to your blanket in the cypress and the lipstick colours. When you get along to the end of your row, it will be 2 double crochets, 2 chains and 2 double crochets. I think that's what I did in the corners. Yeah. In fact, yes, that's what I did, just to give you the corners. And then it will be round the corner, it will be, well, I haven't actually done the green here, but it will be, once you've done your corner with the 2 double crochets, you'll miss 2, do your double crochet and picot, and then you're on to the red stitch for the triangle. So that is your final border stitch for the NOEL 9 patch blanket. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed making this blanket. Bye for now.